Welcome to the Deep Dive. It is really great to have you here with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
And before we get into the meat of today's discussion, just a quick reminder for you to like and subscribe to the show so you never miss out on these deep dives. We look at some of the most fascinating materials out there.
We really do.
Today we're reviewing a highly provocative new ebook. And just so you know right up front, you can check Amazon Kindle and Google Playbooks to buy the book for yourself.
Right, if you want to read along or just explore the source material further on your own.
Exactly. The book we're looking at is Conrad Riker's highly controversial 2025 ebook. It's titled Femmephobe. Mentally ill leftist thought stopping cliche insults to demonize logical argumentation and free thought.
Which is quite a title. It's definitely designed to turn heads.
It really is. Our mission today is to unpack the author's arguments regarding the history and the current state of modern institutions. We're looking at his claims about how these institutions operated before they were, in his words, captured by feminist and Marxist ideologies.
Right, he covers everything from education to media to the legal system. It's a massive, sweeping thesis aimed very squarely at men's rights activists and, red-pilled men in the manosphere.
Which means, before we go any further, I need to make a crucial impartiality disclaimer directly to you, the listener.
Yeah, this is important.
The source material we're diving into today contains highly politically charged content. I want to clearly declare that neither of us here takes any sides on this issue. We absolutely do not endorse the viewpoints of the author.
Not at all.
Our role today is strictly to impartially report and analyze the ideas contained in the original text so that you can fully understand the arguments being made.
Exactly. To understand the intense cultural divides today, we really have to look at the foundational texts shaping those conversations, regardless of where anyone might personally stand on the political spectrum.
With that objective lens in place, let me give you a hook straight from the book that really sets the tone. Riker makes this surprising claim that modern diversity initiatives, speech codes, and equity programs aren't actually political movements at all.
Right. He calls them
A biological insurgency.
a biological insurgency, yeah. The psychological framing he uses there is basically the cornerstone of the whole book. He isn't just saying he disagrees with leftist politics.
He's arguing it's biology.
Precisely. A biological instinct that he believes has run completely amok on a societal level.
Okay, let's unpack this. The core thesis introduced right out of the gate is the idea that the Western intellectual landscape has been colonized by what he calls the maternal script.
The maternal script.
Yeah, the idea that logic, evidence, and merit are being systematically replaced by emotional reasoning and victimhood.
And to build this concept, the text leans heavily on Carl Jung's concept of the mother archetype.
Jung, the psychoanalyst.
Right. Jung described this archetype as a primordial force of life and nourishment, but he also warned of its shadow side. When that nurturing instinct is repressed or misdirected, it becomes this system of smothering dependency and extreme control.
And the author argues that modern women, especially those influenced by feminist ideology, who maybe delay or reject traditional motherhood, are projecting this repressed instinct onto society at large.
Exactly.
Wait, so he's taking a classic psychoanalytic theory from the early 20th century and applying it directly to modern corporate HR departments. Like, how does he functionally make that leap?
Through modern case studies, he uses a lot of anecdotes. For instance, he brings up a 2023 case about a school district in Oregon that literally installed nap pods in every single classroom.
Nap pods, like for the teachers.
No, for third graders, 7-year-olds taking midday lie-downs for what the school explicitly called emotional recalibration.
Emotional recalibration for a 7-year-old.
That was the exact terminology. When a parent asked if the school was just functioning as a daycare, the principal replied that they were creating a trauma-informed environment.
Wow.
Yeah. For the author, this is the maternal script in action. He argues it treats normal childhood stress as a severe pathology requiring constant motherly soothing from the state.
So a desire to coddle rather than build resilience.
Right.
And the book claims this doesn't stop in elementary school. There's that section about a tech firm that completely scrapped its standard coding test for new software engineers.
Oh, yeah, because the test made candidates feel inadequate.
Right, so instead of testing actual technical competence, they started hiring based on shared values and empathy scores.
And the outcome of that, according to the book, was disastrous. The company's app started crashing on a daily basis.
But no one was fired.
No. The head of diversity, equity, and inclusion, reportedly called the technical failure a reflection of systemic stress. The author uses this to argue that the maternal system fundamentally prioritizes emotional harmony over excellence, even when the system is actively collapsing.
I mean, think about your own workplace for a minute. How often do you see words like empathy and safety being used as actual metrics for performance? The book makes the case that these terms are used as Trojan horses to build a gynocentric state.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text argues that nowhere is this playing out more destructively than in the education system. Which brings us to his concept of the war on boys.
Right, if the corporate world is the destination, the education system is the factory. Riker shares this shocking example from a Minneapolis middle school in 2023. They mandated a male atonement week.
They had 11-year-old boys write apology letters to women for historical injustices.
11-year-olds. The author views that as clear evidence that schools have transitioned from places of objective learning into what he calls compliance factories.
And he brings in statistical data to back that up, claiming modern educational environments are uniquely hostile to male biology. He notes boys are currently 5 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD,
3 times more likely to repeat a grade.
and 7 times more likely to be suspended compared to girls.
The premise here is that schools are actively eliminating competition to protect feelings, removing competitive games, academic rankings, rough and tumble play.
He claims schools are creating an environment where natural male traits like physical energy and blunt problem solving are actively penalized.
And the teachers face this too. The book cites a 2022 incident at a Portland high school where a teacher was reported for linguistic violence.
Linguistic violence, just for using the word mankind.
Exactly. During a discussion about Enlightenment thinkers, a historically accurate term, but because it caused subjective emotional discomfort for a colleague, it was treated as literal violence.
The author argues this isn't natural language evolution, it's a deliberate linguistic takeover. And to trace the historical roots, he takes us back to Boston in 1974.
To the Combahee River Collective Statement.
Right.
Riker spends a lot of time on this. For anyone rusty on political theory, traditional Marxism was historically focused on class warfare, the rich factory owners versus the poor workers. How does he connect that to a 1974 document?
He views the 1974 document as the absolute theological foundation of modern identity politics. It was drafted by a group of black lesbian feminists who explicitly declared that major oppressive institutions are interlocking.
So they fused race, class, and gender.
Exactly. They fused them into one systemic enemy. The book argues this created intersectional Marxism. Instead of an economic class war, it became an identity war where straight white men were repositioned as the ultimate oppressors across all categories.
And out of this comes what the book calls oppression inflation, traced directly to Kimberly Crenshaw's 1989 academic concept of intersectionality.
Right, he acknowledges it might have looked like a noble framework on paper, but he argues in practice it's become a social status ladder, an economy where trauma is currency.
You gain social status by stacking marginalized identities and then leverage that to demand institutional power.
And he illustrates this with the 2017 Evergreen State College incident involving Brett Weinstein.
Oh, the day of absence.
Yeah, where white people were essentially asked to leave campus for a day. Weinstein questioned the ethics of banning a racial group from a public institution, and in response, he was surrounded by a mob of students and faculty demanding his resignation.
The author frames that as segregation disguised as liberation. Intersectional Marxism in praxis, elevating victimhood to a sacred status.
He also details the social mechanics of how this policing is enforced in everyday life. He coins the term the GSR triad.
Gossip, shame, rally.
Exactly.
I found that fascinating because it connects to everyday social dynamics. Think about the last time a minor disagreement spiraled out of control in your social circle. The author describes the GSR triad as a covert psychological cartel mechanism.
A way to police dissent without ever confronting someone directly or debating them logically.
Right. You step out of line, they whisper and gossip, they shame you publicly or report you to HR behind closed doors. Then they rally the hive mind into a collective mob. You don't get debated, you get socially exiled.
Which brings us to the most incisive critique in the book, the intentional death of debate.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The argument shifts to how language itself is being weaponized to prevent critical thinking.
He categorizes these as thought-stopping cliches, phrases deployed not to advance a debate, but specifically to end the conversation and silence logical pushback.
They act as a verbal padlock. The book cites a 2021 Stanford study looking at the term microaggression. It found the word is used 11 times more frequently by women than men.
But the critical detail is that in 93% of those cases, there was no actual aggression present.
It was just a disagreement. A man might just be stating his opinion calmly, but because the word microaggression implies physical violence, he's instantly framed as a dangerous villain.
The book breaks down several of these. Take toxic masculinity. The author argues this isn't a clinical term. It's a vague slur used to demonize inherent male traits like strength and ambition.
Because it lacks a strict definition, it can be weaponized against anything a man does that a woman happens to dislike.
Another one is gaslighting.
Oh, that used to be a very specific clinical term for severe psychological abuse.
Right, intentionally manipulating someone into doubting their sanity. But now the book argues it's been watered down to shut down simple differences in memory. If a man says he remembers a conversation differently, he's accused of gaslighting.
Instantly branded an abuser just for having a different perspective. And then there's lived experience.
The ultimate thought-stopping cliche.
Right, he calls it an intellectual surrender to subjectivity. It's like saying, my feelings are facts and your logic is oppression. You can't debate lived experience with objective data.
It's immune to logical scrutiny. And it's amazing how institutionalized these phrases are. The book mentions a 2022 World Health Organization report that urged member nations to eliminate toxic masculinity.
A global health body demanding the elimination of a sociological concept.
Without even defining it.
Or providing evidence of its existence. Yeah. This systemic avoidance of empirical evidence is what the author sees dominating the media and the legal system, too.
Right. There's a quote from a Vox staff writer in 2022 claiming, quote, logic is patriarchal.
The very concept of rational thought framed as an oppressive male construct.
The text calls this maternal censorship. The idea that media no longer reflects objective reality, it manufactures emotional dependency. He argues female-dominated editorial boards feed the public trauma to make themselves feel needed as emotional surrogate mothers.
And to demonstrate this empirically, the book cites a 2019 study from the Journal of Broadcasting and Electronic Media. It showed missing white women receive 6 times more media coverage than missing black men of the exact same age and class.
The media algorithm inherently prioritizes female victimhood. You see it in broadcasting, too. The BBC's Woman's Hour aired 1,247 segments discussing toxic masculinity since 2015.
And how many on toxic femininity?
Exactly 12.
Over 1,000 to 12. For the author, that asymmetry is undeniable evidence of an agenda.
Yeah.
But how does this translate to the legal system?
He quotes feminist legal scholar Catherine McKinnon saying, "The law is male." He views this as a declaration of war on neutral, blind justice. Neutrality requires logic. The goal, he claims, is to replace it with trauma-informed justice.
And he points to specialized women's courts in Canada.
Right, noting they dismiss bail applications for male defendants 89% more often than standard courts do for identical charges.
Institutionalized bias. So what is the reaction to all this? When men face a system that pathologizes their biology, polices their language, and institutionalizes bias, what happens?
The male exodus.
Men just withdrawing from society.
Exactly. They aren't organizing mass protests. They are simply opting out. The text highlights a 2023 CDC study showing 22% of men aged 25 to 34 haven't had sex in the past year.
A sex recession.
He links it to a culture demonizing romance and promoting female hypergamy. And internationally, in Sweden, often heralded as the gold standard for gender equality, the male suicide rate has risen by 27% since 2010.
While female rates remain completely flat, the book argues this isn't driven by male anger, but male indifference. When men are repeatedly told they're toxic, they don't get mad. They just check out.
They abandon career ambition and detach from society. And a civilization cannot survive when its primary builders simply shrug and walk away.
Which is why he proposes a solution. Not violence or political organizing, but a personal philosophy called praxa.
Right, praxa, a guide to intellectual and social resistance. The first pillar is disarming cliches with pure logic. If a colleague calls your idea toxic, don't apologize. You respond calmly with 2 words.
Define toxic.
Exactly, force precision. Because usually it's just an emotional cudgel. The second pillar is refusing emotional blackmail.
Adopting a stoic mindset. Stop apologizing for existing and refuse to participate in those gossip shame rally networks. He strongly advises men to record interactions in corporate settings to protect themselves.
And the final step urges men to build alliances outside heavily moderated platforms. utilizing alternative spaces like Rumble and Locals, where free thought and logical argumentation aren't penalized by maternal censorship.
It's a call to rediscover the logic of the ancient Greeks and the rationalism of the Enlightenment. Stop seeking validation from a system designed to reject you.
So to summarize the core takeaway here,
Yeah, what does this mean for you as a listener?
Riker presents a sweeping, controversial thesis. Western civilization is collapsing inward because logic, evidence, and merit are being dismantled and replaced by emotional reasoning and the maternal script.
Whether you find his conclusions compelling or deeply offensive, understanding the mechanics of these arguments is absolutely critical. If you want to grasp the current cultural divide and the growing sentiments within the manosphere, you have to understand the specific grievances articulated in texts like this.
You really do.
We promise to leave you with a final provocative thought, something to mull over on your own that builds on this material. Think about this. If a society's core institutions completely lose a shared, objective definition of truth,
If logic itself is viewed as oppressive,
right, and we rely solely on subjective emotional experiences as our highest metric for reality, how does that society ever resolve its internal conflicts without ultimately resorting to raw authoritarianism?
it is a genuinely chilling question about the future of objective reality.
It is. Well, that is all the time we have for today's deep dive. As a quick reminder, if you want to dig into this controversial source material yourself, you can check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books right now to buy Conrad Riker's ebook, Femmephobe.
And you can follow the author directly to read more of his unfiltered thoughts.
Yes, be sure to follow the author at Conrad Riker on Substack. Thank you so much for joining us, and please remember to like and subscribe to the show so we can keep bringing you these intense explorations of the ideas shaping our world. See you next time.